Hey guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of Now Showing with
John.
and Cam. And on today's episode, we are going to be doing our countdown of our all-time favorite Halloween movies from worst to best, and we are going to be including every film in the series. So that is 11 films in total. You have the first 8 Halloween films, you have the 2 Rob Zombie films, and then of course you also have the 2018 film that was a direct sequel to the original. Now, for time constraints, we're not going to count down and go into detail all 11. So what we're going to do is we're each going to take turns going from 11 to 6, just kind of lifting it off, maybe just a word or two of the 11 to 6, but that's it. We're going to then go into detail with our top 5 Halloween movies of all time. Of course, we felt this was the perfect time to do this countdown because we are vastly approaching Halloween. This is one of my all-time favorite series of all time. If you watched one of our other videos, Michael Myers is my all-time favorite horror movie villain and all-time favorite slasher character. So I'm very excited to do this countdown. This series is something, or a series that I'm very passionate about. And I know John's a huge fan of it as well, so I'm very curious to see how similar our ranking is, how different it is. But with without much else to say, I think we should get started. Would you like to start, sir, or would you like me to begin?
I'll start, actually.
You're going to start it? So John's going to list his 11 through 6. He'll say a few words of maybe how he came up with that. I'll list mine, and then we'll go from our top 5.
All right, so yeah. My top 5 are obviously the best of the best, from 6 to 11. Some of them I liked, some I thought were complete trash. So with that being said, number 11, complete trash. And that is Halloween Resurrection. I didn't like it. I didn't like the story. I didn't like pretty much anything about the movie. Busta Rhymes tried to save the movie, but I'm kidding. That was horrible. Number 10 and 9 are going to be the Rob Zombie films. I really didn't care for them all that much. They were all right, but I just felt that he went a little too much with the story and some of the stuff that he added. I just couldn't get on board with the Rob Zombie Halloweens. So, number 8, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Number 7, Halloween The Curse of Michael Myers. Number 6, Halloween H2O, 20 years later. So 7 and 8, they're not bad movies. I just don't really, compared to some of the other ones, they fall a little bit short. Number 6, I feel, is a solid spot for Halloween H2O. Out of all the ones that didn't make the top 5, number 6 is the next step. And I really did actually like kind of what they did for the 20-year anniversary type movie. I thought it was good. So,
Okay, so, right off the bat, our lists are going to be vastly different, which is always interesting because we don't know each other's list. So there are definitely some similarities, but there are some that he said that are going to be higher on my list. So let's go into it. So for my 11 through 6, number 11 is a total waste of time and, for lack of a better word, is a piece of shit of a film, and that is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I absolutely despise this movie. I hate every second of it, other than the first 10 minutes, which happens to be a dream sequence in a hospital. Everything else is terrible, from the fact that they made Laurie Strode into an emo chick, to the fact that Dr. Loomis is a money-hungry author who cares nothing about anyone other than money and prestige, to the fact that Michael Myers sees his dead mother riding a white horse that commands him. Everything about this movie screams terrible. I hate it. Don't want to talk about it anymore. Number 10 was this guy's number 11, another movie I'm also not a fan of, and that's Halloween Resurrection. They tried to really play off of the found footage genre, which was really popular at the time this came out, and it just didn't work. The characters were so unlikable, the acting was bad, the storyline really didn't make sense, and I just didn't enjoy it. And of course, the worst thing, they killed off Laurie Strode, spoiler alert, in the first 5 minutes, just simply to dump her off because she didn't want to be in the movies anymore. They did it in a terrible way with a terrible concept. Do not like this movie. Number 9, Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. There aren't really any redeeming qualities about this movie either. I feel like this movie is in my lost potential category. I felt like this movie had a chance to be good because it did have good actors in it, and I liked a lot of the set pieces in this movie. But from what they did with the character of Jamie and what they did with her in the beginning, and of course, this was the film that brought in the entire cult storyline that Michael Myers is born from a satanic cult and that it's all their plan to make Michael do these terrible things in honor of Sam Hain and all this. I do not enjoy this movie at all. My number 8 is actually not a bad movie, but it couldn't make my top 5 simply because it doesn't have Michael Myers in it, and that's Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. This is a good film for what it is, but because it doesn't have Michael Myers, it can't be in my top Halloween series movies because it doesn't have Michael in it. Number 7 is Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. This was coming off a great movie before it, but unfortunately, I didn't like what they did with some of the characters because Part 5 is a direct continuation of Part 4, and I just felt like they took some of the characters in a poor direction, and I just felt like this movie didn't have a lot of spark to it, so that's why it didn't make my top 5. Number 6 is actually Rob Zombie's Halloween Part 1, his first one. I actually don't hate this movie. I do think he did some good things with it, and I think the fact that you got to see a lot of Michael's childhood, I did like that aspect. I just felt the second half was just, he tried to completely do every single scene shot from the original, but the characters and the acting wasn't nearly as good. And also, this movie was a lot darker and gorier than it had to be. I know that's Rob Zombie's style, but I don't hate this movie. The first one actually was decent, but not quite enough to make my top 5.
Interesting. I'm a little shocked by some of those, actually. I thought we were going to be a little more in sync, but
we are
far
not.
off. Wow. So.
All right.
Well.
Time for your number 5, sir.
My number 5 is about to piss him off because my number 5 actually doesn't star Michael Myers.
No, I like this movie.
No, I'm just saying, the
Yeah.
fact that it's that high, and he's not even in it.
Yeah, true.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Yes, spoiler: Michael Myers is not in this movie. Kind of a weird decision on that. I'm not sure what they were thinking. Like if they wanted to try to send this the series in a different direction instead of having it focus on Michael, and after this came out they realized what a huge mistake that was.
Retribution.
So they kind of were like, oh shit, we gotta go back to doing Michael Myers. So then obviously Halloween 4 Michael Myers comes back, but taking the fact of everything else out of the equation, taking Michael out of the equation, this is a solid horror Halloween themed movie.
Yep.
And just for that alone, that's why it's my number 5. The other ones, they had Michael, but they had some flaws. This one didn't have Michael, but it really didn't have as many flaws as the other ones, and that's kind of why I put it higher up on the list.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't put it in because it didn't have Michael, but I still really enjoy this movie. As a separate movie, it's great. So the song that plays in the movie over and over, Happy Happy Halloween, such a catchy tune. If you've never seen the movie, when you watch it, it will be stuck in your head.
It will be.
So I apologize to everyone for now probably getting that stuck in your head. My number 5 and number 4, I kept switching, but I'm going to stick with where it's at now. I can easily go back and forth with these two, but my number 5 is Halloween H2O. Of course, I love this movie. My 5 through 1, I love all of these movies. So that's why it was so hard. But H2O, of course, is the story of 20 years after the original movie. Of course, Jamie Lee Curtis, who plays the iconic Laurie Strode, she's relocated to a new town in California. She's changed her identity. She has a son who's turning 17, played by Josh Hartnett.
I thought that. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, and she's living this estranged life, but her past haunts her. She constantly has nightmares of Michael Myers and still fears every Halloween he could come back. And of course, in this movie, that's exactly what he does. He tracks her down and finds her 20 years later and comes after her, her son, and all the people in this little private school community. And it's fantastic. Everything in this movie is done well, has a very chilling, awesome start to the film. Great build-up of Michael getting and finding his way to Laurie, and then the showdown between them two, you can argue, is one of the best showdowns in any Michael Myers film, and it's got a great ending to it as well. Halloween H2O, I love this movie, man. Like I said, I had it at number 4. I've been going back and forth, but I'll stick with it at number 5.
Huh. Interesting. All right, so my number 4, I didn't do this on purpose. I'm just not realizing this, but my number 4 happens to be Halloween 4, and that is The Return of Michael Myers. So obviously you have the Halloween 1, and then the continuation in 2, and then 3 they kind of veer off, and then 4 they get back to Michael Myers. And in this one, if you've never seen it or it's been a while, this is one that I feel doesn't get as much praise as it really should, as far as like the story of it. So this one, basically, Michael Myers is going after his niece that ends up having kind of like a weird psychological connection to him. And basically he comes after her because he wants to kill his entire family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And because she is connected to him and she is one of his relatives, that's kind of why he goes. But they kind of get into more of like her having the psychological connection and that kind of thing. And just, it's a solid Halloween movie in my opinion. So yeah, that's why it's my number 4. I couldn't really put it any further, and I really didn't want to drop it down any further either. So,
awesome. Yeah, my number 4, like I said, was going back and forth, is the most recent Halloween, which is Halloween 2018. This film, of course, basically was a direct sequel to the original Halloween. They only took the concepts from the first movie and brought it. It's one of the highest grossing horror movies to come out, rated R horror movies, and it did very well, which of course is spawning now 2 more sequels. I thought they did a great job with this movie in terms of bringing back Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode and sort of the woman she's becoming, this, strong, fierce, setting her house, Macaulay Culkin style traps for Michael if he would ever escape and return, because in this film he was captured or recaptured on the original night that it happened and sent back to the mental asylum, and of course he does find a way in this to escape. And Jamie Lee Curtis in this movie, they ignore all the other stuff that happens, so she doesn't have the son from H2O or the daughter Jamie, none of that. She does have a daughter that's grown and has her own family herself. Jamie Lee Curtis also has a granddaughter, and of course Michael terrorizes all of them in this film. There are some really good concepts in this movie. There are some awesome kills. John Carpenter returned to do the score, and my goodness does he do a good score in this movie. I really enjoyed it. There was only one particular side storyline in this movie that I had a gripe with, and it involved Michael's new doctor that he got. I wasn't a big fan of where they went with that, but everything else I thought they did really well, and I cannot wait for the sequel, Halloween Kills, next October. So yeah, my number 4 is Halloween 2018.
All right. So my number 3 is Halloween 2018. I loved this remake. I do have the same gripe that he does. But other than that, I thought, I have 2 gripes. One major one is the same as him. The other one is some of the comedic aspects of this movie were just really, was that necessary? But if you realize that Danny McBride was one of the people involved in it, some of it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But there's one scene in this version that is the reason I kind of hold it so high on my list, because I feel it is the epitome of Michael Myers. There's a scene where one of the kids, one of Laurie Strode's daughter's friends, are coming back from a party. He's drunk. He's in this backyard, and there's a motion light sensor that keeps going off. Every time the kid moves, the light comes on, and you see Michael Myers. The light goes off, and obviously you don't see anything. The kid moves again, the light goes on, all of a sudden Michael's closer and closer. Every time that the light's off, the light doesn't pick up his movement, and it just captures that Michael Myers is the boogeyman. That scene alone, I was blown away the way they shot it. There's the score that plays during that.
Yeah.
It is one of the greatest. I will put that as one of the greatest horror scenes of all time.
Yeah.
Just for the sheer chills that it gave me. I remember like I was kind of like sitting back watching the movie in the theaters when that happened. Like I sat up because I was just amazed by that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that song that plays after Jamie Lee Curtis's granddaughter discovers her friend's body, and then Michael comes up to the gate, and this song plays. I'm not sure what it's called, but it was an original that John Carpenter made for the score. Awesome. Yeah, a lot of great things done in that movie. Okay, so my number 3 is Halloween 2. The second Halloween, a lot of people hold this very high, and so do I. This was a direct sequel to Halloween 1. Of course, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill decided to make a sequel after just how popular the original became, even on such a low budget and limited release that it was originally in. Michael Myers was not a high budget film, and as a matter of fact, it was in very, very limited amount of theaters, but because of word of mouth and what people were saying coming out of the theater, more theaters began picking it up, and it just expanded and expanded, and it became this mega hit. And of course, then John Carpenter went on to make part 2, and in part 2 you have Laurie Strode continuing right after the events that happened in part 1. She's transported to a local Haddonfield hospital, where while she's in the hospital trying to recover on this same Halloween night, Michael Myers, of course, makes his way to the hospital, killing plenty of victims along the way, all in search of killing his sister, Laurie Strode. And there are some fantastic kills in this, from the who can forget the face being boiled in the hot water, to just, other great, amazing kills. And the acting in this movie is great. Donald Pleasance, of course, returns again as Dr. Loomis. And there are just amazing scenes with Michael rummaging through the town at first, and then the chase scenes in the hospital throughout the middle and towards the end of the movie are done so well. It's just as creepy basically as the original. It's a fantastic movie. There's really not anything I can say wrong with part 2. That's why I hold it at my number 3. There were only 2 movies that I put above it in the series. So yeah, my number 3 is Halloween 2.
Alright, so if you guys have been kind of keeping track with us, you can pretty much figure out what my last 2 are. So I'm actually just going to do my last 2 real quick because they go right in order. It just makes sense.
Sure.
Number 2, Halloween 2. Number 1, Halloween.
Nice.
So basically, I will punch anyone in the face that doesn't have the original Halloween at 1.
Yeah.
Like, it's a no-brainer. It doesn't make sense to not have that.
Yeah.
I want to say one thing. If you guys have never watched the documentary of the making of the first Halloween, you need to watch it because of what they had to go through, the phenomenon of this movie, of how, like, he had said that it only released in a few theaters. Literally, word of mouth blew this movie up.
Yep.
So you have, like, slasher movies and the Halloween series. Michael Myers, both of us consider to be the greatest slasher of all time. And you really get that in this movie. So, in the first Halloween, you're introduced to Michael Myers, this just killing machine that you don't really... Why is he doing this? Like, what is the, like, driving force? The driving force is he just wants to kill.
Yeah.
And just the way that it's shot, the score, the atmosphere, the cinematography, the build-up of how, like, it's not just right off the bat you just see Michael killing a bunch of people. It's the stalking, the creepiness, and, like, this one, I've said this in other videos, I like realism. And this one kind of gave you some of that realism for the majority of the movie. You didn't have, like, superhuman things. It was just kind of a menacing stalker that just kept building and increasing and getting more violent and continuing into the second one. The acting, I mean, all around just solid. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I agree. So I'll give you, of course, my top two as well. So my number two is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. I hold this movie with such high regard. I know that may surprise some people that I have it so high, but I absolutely love this movie, and I may even contend I don't. Obviously, my number one is also the original Halloween, and that is my favorite. But just going back and thinking about as a kid how many times I rewatched the Halloween movies, I may have watched Halloween 4 growing up even more than I watched the original Halloween, because that's how much I loved it. Halloween 4, of course, as John stated earlier when he talked about it, is the story of a young girl named Jamie, who you find out is Jamie Lee Curtis's character Laurie Strode's daughter, who she gave up for adoption. And in this film, they pretty much make you assume Jamie Lee Curtis's character is dead. And she's living with this foster family or adopted family. She has an older stepsister, I guess you would call her. And in the movie, I just love the setting. It's Halloween, fall, leaves everywhere, Haddonfield. And in the movie, Michael Myers comes after his niece and, of course, killing more people along the way. This movie is just done so well. Of course, Donald Pleasance returns as Dr. Loomis. In the beginning of the film, Michael Myers' body is being kept in the basement of this, basically, hospital. They go to transport him out. He escapes. He kills the people that are transporting him. He escapes. Dr. Loomis...
You would think they would learn to not transport.
Yeah, exactly. You would think, but no, they continuously do that. Dr. Loomis, of course, knows what's happening. Nobody believes that Michael could still be alive. He tries as fast as he can to get in Haddonfield because he knows what Michael's going to do. Once Michael arrives in Haddonfield and the chase begins, it's nonstop. You have Jamie and her older sister trying to run from Michael when he's chasing them through the school, through the town, through houses.
The Halloween party in that barn.
That's part 5.
That is, you're right.
That's part 5.
My bad.
Yes, no, but yeah. So
part 5 continues the story.
Part 5 is a sequel, correct? So, but there's just such amazing kills, moments. The only small gripe I have with 4 is, as you know, throughout the Michael Myers movies, the mask changes throughout the movies. I'm not a huge fan of the mask in 4 because they did like a very cheap mask look, because in the movie Michael literally grabs sort of like a knockoff mask of his from a convenience store, so it doesn't look quite as good, not nearly as good as the original and some of the others. But just this movie in general, the acting done by young Jamie, actress Danielle Harris, this was her debut film, maybe the best child acting I've ever seen. Like, she kills this movie.
Second best.
2.
Exorcist.
Oh, well, okay.
I mean,
yeah.
Come on.
But no, I mean, she kills it in this, and yeah, it's such a great movie. It's why it's at my number 2. I've watched it so much. I love it. And of course...
Just real quick.
Yeah.
Because I'm drawing a blank. Obviously, he is a bigger Halloween fan. The ending to 4 is...
So, Michael, of course, there's the older sister and Jamie. They're trying to drive away and escape in a truck. Michael is in the bed of the truck. They crash the truck right near a cemetery. Then Dr. Loomis and all the police show up as Jamie's standing near Michael's body. They yell, he rises. All of the police and Dr. Loomis have their guns. She ducks. They just fire an entire arsenal into Michael. Spoiler alert, everybody. Sorry, we're kind of just talking to ourselves here. And Michael basically gets shot to death. He falls down into this little canal into a waterway and sort of washes away, which is where he washes up in part 5.
The ending of 5.
Now,
there's a reason.
Wait, hold on. There's
something I'm looking for.
Well, hold on. That's not the very ending. That's the ending of Michael. The very last scene of the movie, though, they get back home, and the adopted mother, she's getting a bath running for Jamie. And then all of a sudden, Jamie puts on a clown outfit similar to what Michael Myers wore when he killed his sister.
All right. The reason I asked that is because when I was doing my list, that is what I was thinking. But then whenever I made the comment about the Halloween party, I was like, oh shit, did I get this wrong?
Correct, yeah.
I just wanted to make sure, because Do you remember the first time that
Oh
ending
yeah,
happened?
oh yeah, blew me away. And unfortunately, with 5, I didn't feel like they followed up with that as well. And there were a lot of things they did. That's why 5 isn't, even though it's a direct continuation, it didn't rank nearly as high. But yeah, and then of course number 1, just like John said, how could it not be? Is the original Halloween. There's barely any blood, barely any effects, but yet it's still one of the creepiest movies of all time. It's phenomenal. The score, one of the most iconic scores ever. You can make the argument that it is the most iconic score ever. Just the scenes of Michael when Laurie looks out a window and spots him standing in the yard, or she's walking and he just happens to drive by slowly in a car and you see the mask for a split second. Just the moments of him sitting up in the background.
I always wondered how he learned how to drive, though. Just
Yeah.
throwing that out there.
Yeah, that's a good thought. It's perfect. It's a perfect film. There are no problems with the film. It's perfectly acted, directed, the score, everything. It's so naturally done. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Not just horror movies, but one of my favorite movies. So yeah, it is my number 1. So there you go, guys. That's all 11 of the Halloween films ranked for you guys. Certainly in the comments, please give your 11 through 1. I know a lot of you are probably going to be all over the board with this. I expect most of you to have number 1. I'd like to see if any of you don't. And then if you do, please leave your address in the comments so that John can find you
and punch you.
But thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And check out our Facebook page as well at Now Showing. And of course, we have plenty of content coming this Halloween season and beyond. So we hope you enjoyed this, and once again, thank you for watching Now Showing with
John
and Cam. Happy Halloween, everybody.